Hello there, Board Game Maniacs, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Painting with a Maniac. In this episode, we are going to be painting the hill troll from the game Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth. I kind of stumbled on that because I had to think of what miniature this is off of because I've been doing a lot of painting videos and everything lately. So this is my Fantasy Flight games. The miniature is probably the largest into the core set for it. I'm thinking you can get expansions for this. I'm not 100% sure, or they're going to be coming out. This is a game that is played with an app. It's like Mansions of Madness, if you ever played that, or Star Wars Imperial Assault. It's the same thing. It's a lot of fun. And what I went and did already is I just kind of based them out. You can see here, I just rattle canned them all in black. And then I took some white and I kind of put it on an angle like this and sprayed downward. And here I am with the hiccups again. Every time I do a Painting with the Maniac episode, this is what happens. But in either case, let's move on with this. So that's what I did to prep this miniature. That is it that I did. Now, what I'm going to be doing with this is closely following a painting tutorial on Surastro's painting. Now, he has a YouTube channel called Surastro's Painting. I follow him a lot. I really like the way he paints, and he's very instructional on how to paint miniatures. So if you haven't checked him out already, please go check him out because, well, it's worthwhile doing that. And also check out Painting with the Maniac. But again, word of caution, like I said before, I am not a professional painter by no means. I just kind of follow along with tutorials, or I do my own. I just add a little twist to it, so just be aware of that. And again, that's my spiel. Hill Troll is what we're painting today. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, actually, one more thing I'd like to do. This is like a long intro, but that is, if you haven't already, jump over to YouTube channel, look up Board Game Maniacs, and click on this subscribe button, the bell notification, get notified when more videos like this come available. And one more thing, and that is, if you want to become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs, jump over to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/BoardGameManiacs. The link is in the description as well. And you could become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs with 3 different tier levels that you can choose from. Each have different benefits. Watching and viewing, same thing. So viewing these, subscribing, commenting, sharing is definitely a big support for our community too as well, and for our Board Game Maniacs channel. That is my spiel. The reason why I primed them in the black and then the gray, same thing with the Surastro's painting for this one. It's creating zenithal highlights, so it's like the sun is at an angle and it's giving natural highlights. And you're probably thinking, because when I first seen people do this, and I was thinking too as well, it's like, well, why are you doing that when you're going to be covering them with paint anyhow? If you paint with a little bit of transparency, the whites, the grays, and the blacks will show through, and it'll give that extra step of highlighting, so it kind of cuts in on the highlighting steps for you. And, you know, that's a good thing, always to cut down on time, because, you know, time is very important to everybody. And you can see here too as well, is I added some cork already to the base. So I glued some super glue with some cork onto it, and then I just kept it. We're going to touch upon this afterwards, but right now let's just start going with the nitty-gritty of this, and we're going to first do some dry brush. For the dry brushing, we are going to be using some Pixetti White by Citadel, and it's dry brushing is dry brushing. So I'm just going to take one of my old ratty brushes, which is, you can see right here, it's all beat up, it's been cleaned, it's stained, you name it. It's been through the war, and I'm just dipping it into my my dry brush, and I'm wiping the excess off on a cloth. Now when I'm doing this dry brushing, I'm not going up and down, I'm just going in one direction, which is downward stroke, just to bring out some more highlights. Like so. And I'm doing this on the entire miniature just to bring out some more highlights, like I said, because then it's just going to add more. But again, I'm not going up and down, it's just downward stroke. So it's grabbing all of the miniatures parts that are kind of like protruding outward, where the light would naturally hit it and create that white highlight effect. So I'm going to keep dry brushing I'll be back after that because you don't have to see me doing the whole thing. Some things I will cut, some things I won't, and dry brushing for this, it's not too difficult, so I'll be back after that is done. There you have all of the dry brushing done that I wanted. I didn't want to overpower the dry brushing too much, but you can see it catches all of the natural highlights just to kind of bump them up a little bit. You can see there, didn't get that seam line. Oh, too late now. And you can, just going along, you can see all the dry brushing. All right, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to use our wet palette, and we are going to be painting all of the cracked skin. You can see all the crack here going on. And we are going to be painting it with Dark Reaper, but with this Dark Reaper, we are making it a little bit of watery consistency. Not too watery, it's going to run all over the miniature, but watery enough so that it's going to show some of these highlights through in areas. You don't want to make it too watery, like I said. So again, just start painting where this cracked flesh is. Looks like he got a tattoo on his back. What else can I say about this? It's pretty self-explanatory. One thing I want to mention though is where I am painting this right now, this is way before it's being released, obviously. Just try to keep up with everything. And I don't know what's going to be happening when this video is released, but I'm painting it during the COVID-19 pandemic that is going on, so just be aware of that. I'm not sick. I am home. I am staying safe along with my son and my wife. We are all staying safe. We talk to the kids on a regular basis and tell them to stay in. Now, if you're on the forefront and have to work, you know, thank you very much for sticking it out and making sure what you do is to help other people stay safe. That's just not in the health industry. That's just in general, like an essential service, as they say. So thank you very much for that. You are making all of our lives easier, tolerable, and to survive, and we appreciate that very much. And you can see, now back to the painting, obviously you can see the little bit of the gray and white is kind of showing through in spots because I got the paint watered down enough so that the translucency is there and it's going to work. So think of the mixture to this as maybe like 2 parts paint to 2 parts water or some kind of thinner. It's up to you what you want to use, but I'm just using water on this. And I'm just painting it. You just want to make sure you over saturate your brush so that, again, it's going to create water. It's going to be runny and go down on everything else. Not that it can't be fixed, but the less messy you make it now, the more quicker you're going to be able to paint it and not have to fix your mistakes. Sometimes you have to do that though, like there's no and if buts about it, but yeah, that's just the way it is. So I'm just seeing he's got a little bit more on his knee here. That knee is wrinkly, so we're going to leave that one there. It's rough on the cloth. We're not painting the scaly skin texture on his cloth material. That is going to be different, obviously. So we'll just continue on with the scales. Or dry skin. He's a troll. So hill troll, I don't think they have scales. It's just, you know, part of a skin texture. Because, you know, trying to fight these guys, it's darn near impossible because they are super strong. They're tough. They got a raw hide skin. It's like it's their armor, right? And that's just the way it is. You can see how the consistency of the paint is from here, like with the glistening. It's to the point of almost watery, but not. If that kind of helps explain anything there. But, yeah, I'm just going to continue on here, trying to keep it on camera as much as possible here. Because we all know I don't pay attention when I'm painting to the camera angle sometimes, and I just keep going the way I want to it, and that's it. You may hear some clicking too as well in the background. That's just my son, Brady. He's playing some video games while I am painting. Because it's a small studio we have, and you know, we have to use the space we have for many things, and that's just it. So you can see here a little bit more there. Any other spots that I am missing? Just quickly check here. I don't think so. It looks like I'm all got it done. And as you can tell, I'm not kind of scrubbing it with the paintbrush. I'm more of a dabbing effect because it is watery, and because that it is getting into all the little grooves and the texture and everything else. That's just what I find works for me in the way that I paint. But again, you paint the way you paint, and this is not more of like a painting tutorial as opposed to just noise in the background when you paint. But I have to thank everybody who's been watching the Painting with the Maniac and been commenting and liking and everything and sharing. Thank you very much. All that bit is helping us out immensely with this. I didn't know if this was going to take off because I'm not a superior painter by no means. I'm kind of like your run-of-the-mill basic kind of painter, but hopefully you're learning something from my mistakes or learning tips and tricks. I don't know, but in either case, it's just fun doing it, and it gives me an excuse to paint my miniatures, to get them done. Not that I need an excuse, but you know, if you're probably in the same boat where you have lots of game systems and everything else with miniatures, and they're just sitting on your desk collecting dust, and like these were doing. So I just, hey, I'm going to start painting them, and to force me to paint them more is just painting them on camera, because then it's like, hey, I started this, I have to finish. I got no choice because I want to have this footage for the channel. So it's helping me out in that way. So there we go. I'm done with the Reaper, and we're going to go on to the next step now, and that's going to be painting the hill troll skin. Now that we're all done with the rough skin texture, we're going to go on to the rest of the skin texture onto it. And we're kind of following along with the painting for Sarastro's painting for this. Hiccups again. But I am changing it up slightly a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm using, it's amber gold. This here is, again, from Vallejo. And 2 parts of this to flat brown Vallejo, 1 part, and 1 part of Abaddon black. So I'm going to mix this all up, and also too, as well as I'm just watering it down slightly a bit, which I did off camera. And after I did that, it's going to be, I'm going to show you a shot of my wet palette because I never really showed that before, but that's the color we're looking for, and the consistency is right there. It's kind of like shag brown with a little bit of black mix if we were talking about Citadel paint, but that's what color we're using. So again, watering it down so that it's a little bit translucent, so the skin tone you can see through. When I say the skin tone, see through, but it's the highlights, the zenithal highlights that we already painted. So we're just gonna paint it all like this and try to butt up as close as we can to the rough skin texture. Right there. Just gotta be a little careful with this. The size of the brush I'm doing right now, because this here is a larger miniature compared to the other ones into it. This is a Citadel layer brush and M, you can see, or W, whatever way you're looking at it. But that's what I'm using, roughly the size right now, because there's not really any extreme detail that I'm trying to get into. So just to get the job to go by a little bit faster, I'm just going to paint it this way. And I'm avoiding the mouth if I can, as best as possible. You could switch to a smaller brush for that, but I'm just gonna keep going. Definitely making sure to get underneath his chin, because, you know, you miss part of it and you have to go back afterwards. So you want to try to look as much as possible to see if there's any parts that you missed. So yeah, you have to just keep carefully going through it. You can see, and you can see the consistency of this. It is a little bit watered down, just like before. So you don't need to keep going in and putting paint on your brush this way because of that, because of the watered down consistency of it. So what I'll do is I'm just going to keep painting this. All I am is just painting skins. There's no special thing that I'm doing there. So all of the exposed skin, I'm going to paint that color, including the back. I'm not going to paint the loincloth, obviously, or his stone hammer. And when that's done, I'll be back and we are going to be avoiding this skin texture, the hard skin texture that we did already. So I'll be back after that is finished. I finished all of the skin tone color using the 3 different mixed Abaddon black, the flat brown, and the amber gold that I showed previously. Now, it is still drying, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry completely before I paint anything else onto it, because it just, if other colors gets mixed in while it is wet, it could end up running and making more of a mess. But you can see here, especially like on his hand here, because where we did the dry brush and with the Zenithal highlight, and of how thin the consistency is of the skin color, the highlights, the natural highlights, are showing through as the paint is drying, which is what I intended, which is really good. I like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this dry completely. And when this is all done being dry, we'll be back and we'll continue on with the rest. I'm hoping, you know, you're liking the colors. You don't have to stick with these colors. You can go with any colors, as I did too as well. Because where I followed or watched the tutorial on Sarastro's painting YouTube page, he did use a different mixture of colors and different tones. So again, you can choose whatever color you want. This is just the color that I like, and this is what I chose. Now, one thing I have to say about this is I find this very entertaining, because if you watched any of the Hobbit movies, this kind of brings me back to the scene where Bilbo Baggins is trying to release the other dwarfs that the hill trolls have tied up and they're going to eat. Very entertaining. It's going through my head while I'm painting the skin tone for this. Reminiscing, I guess, is the best word for it. But anyhow, we'll be back after this is all dry and we'll continue on with the next step. Now that the skin tone is all dry, you can see that the highlights is showing through, like I said, because we kind of made the paint more transparent. And, you know, I'm liking the look of this so far. The next thing we're going to do is, again, we're going to paint the loincloth. And for the loincloth, we are going to be using Minotaur leather, color like a leather brown. It's this one here. We've used that before in different painting. And we're also going to be using the amber gold by Vallejo that we just finished using previously. And the mixed ratio of this is roughly about 3 parts of Minotaur to 2 parts of amber gold, and then maybe about 1 part of water. And we're going to try to avoid like the stitching, as well as he has a little patch right here that you can see. And just remember that the loincloth does have some holes, so you want to paint the skin texture into that, or the scaly texture. So I already have it mixed up here. So again, the watery consistency, just so that we can grab the highlights that we already put into it. I would say that the consistency of this is not as watery as what the skin tone is, but it is still got more of water, so that when it dries, it should show through the white zenithal highlighting that we did. You can see here, just again, you don't want to oversaturate your brush for that fact that it's going to start just running too much, and that can cause some problems. So just think of the consistency as like milk, I guess is the good way to say it. I'm talking with a higher pitched voice now. So yeah, just like that. Very easy. Nothing technical about the loincloth part. It's just, you know, trying to be as neat as possible and staying away from the stitching. If you get it on the stitching, not a big deal, because we'll be going over that with the different color anyhow. Oh, it already went over that patch, so you got to pay attention. It's like I'm not doing is don't go for me and not be paying attention, because as you can tell, I just said we got to avoid that patch, but we didn't avoid it because I painted over it a little bit. But it's nothing that's like too permanent. We can just go over it with other paint. And you can see here, I'm just getting the under part of this leathery loincloth right there. So I'll flip it over, I'll paint the rest, and again, I'm gonna avoid that. And when we're all done and it's dry, we'll be back and I will show you what the next step is. Yeehaw! You can see the loincloth is dry and some of the black is showing through and some of the white too as well. Pretty snazzy, yes. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna paint the patch here as well as the patch that's here. And the colors we're using for that, it's kind of close to what the tutorial was, if I do recall. But we're gonna be using Military Green by Vallejo. And we're also going to be using, it's kind of like a sea blue by Vallejo too as well. Just give this a good shake. And we're going to mix a ratio of roughly 1:1 into our wet palette. And it's going to be a little greenish blue, not close to what the Dark Reaper is. So just be aware of that. So again, and we also watered it down a bit. Probably ratio is 1:1:1, so 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 water. I'm just trying to be as careful as possible so that we don't get them stitchings. But again, if we get the stitchings, that's no big deal because we are going to be painting them anyhow. And if we get any of the color onto the loincloth, we can always just go back over it again. No sweat, no biggie. But if you do get some on, you have to be aware because we are trying to keep the translucency of the paint down pretty good so that it can show through the colors. If you go over it with a different color, the problem with that being is going to be simply that it's just you're kind of losing that appearance or that translucency that you're going after from using the zenithal highlights. So that one's pretty easy. Done and done. And now we are going to go on and paint the next step, which is going to be the tongue. Again, into the tutorial, one thing I like with Sarasaro's painting is when he paints, I don't know if he is intending for this or not, but I find that it's systematic. So pretty much what it means is he's painting what he can to make more sense, going on to the next color and so on. So that way we are definitely following the order of, because I like that about the videos. For the gum and tongues, the gums and tongue, he only has one tongue that I know of, is we're going to paint it with some Gene Stealer purple, and we're going to mix it with a little bit of the same color that we use for the loincloth here. This part of the loincloth, I should say, the greenish color. Just to give it a little more darker, but again, the consistency is maybe like 1 to half. So 1 purple to half of this color. And we don't need a lot, and you can water it down a little bit, but I don't want to water it down that much because we are trying to keep this more opaque and transparent. And as you can tell, I switched to a smaller brush because we need a smaller brush for this. So I'm just trying to get it as carefully as possible where I want it. Same with this part for his gums. If I go over his teeth, which I did there, it is no big deal because I'm going to be painting it over again. I'm not going for any kind of transparency for the teeth because the teeth are going to be more solid color. It's all got quiet in here now. So yeah, just a little bit for the gums. Just like that. No big deal. And we are going to move on to the next step. All right, let's move on. Next, we're going to paint the stitching on the loincloth. And what we're going to be painting with is another Vallejo. It's a green-brown. So that's what we're going to be painting it with. And I'm not too worried about watering this one down. It is small stitching. So just be aware of that. I didn't add any water to it. This is just straight like it is. And I'm still using my small brush for this, because again, this is more detail. Not that you can use it, you couldn't use a bigger brush, but it's just you may make a little bit of more mistakes with it. Or if you're like me, you'll just make mistakes. So yeah, just a little bit I missed here. There we go. Can't miss any stitching. That one there needs a little bit more that I seen. Just like that. We'll go to the back now and we'll get the sides here and continue on. So after I'm done the stitching and dry, we'll be back because it's nothing too technical here. Stitching is all done. So we're going to continue on using my small brush. This one here, again, it's a 00, I guess. You can see that there. In either case, that's what we're doing, and we are going to be using Paladin Witch Flesh, and we're going to paint the teeth. The teeth. Now this is going to be interesting. All right, let's see if I can get this. This is not watered down. Pretty much just straight out of the pot. Just very quiet here because his teeth are small. Like Steve Urkel pouring a scientific mixture or something. Shh, not what I'm pouring. If you ever seen Steve Urkel. Family Ties or Family Matters, I can't remember the name of it. Anyhow, here we go. See a little bit right there that I gotta fix. I'm happy with that. I'm not gonna push it anymore. But that's his teeth, and we're going to move on. Woohoo! Now we're going to switch our attention over to painting the handle of the hammer, and we are going to be using XV88 by Citadel. I love using this paint for any, like wood, because I like the color of it. And we're putting in the wet palette, and it is watered down just slightly because I want to see if I can show up some of these highlights from the Zenadal highlights. Again, just being careful, especially in the hand right here. I got a little bit on his finger. Oh well, I can fix that later. No biggie. Yeah, just it's not hard. Turn around, keeping on painting. So I'd be interested to see what everybody is up to if this, or even if it isn't the pandemic still going around, the COVID-19 or not. I'd be interested to see what everybody is up to. You know, what has your hobby and have brought you recently? As if you purchased anything new, if you are playing any new games or painting anything new, just comment down below and let me know what you are up to, because I like hearing from people and find out what they're doing and everything else, because it's interesting. Everybody's lives, they all have their own little facets of what they do, and it's really cool. And just like that, right here. All right, so that's that for the, it's a little watery as you can see, but again, that's because I want to see if any of the Zenithal highlights going to show through with that. It should, because of how watery it is. We're going to leave that dry and we'll be on to the next step. Now that the hammer handle is all dry, we're going to concentrate on the stone part of the hammer before we paint the rope. And for the stone part of the hammer, we're going to be mixing up two things. Number one, the top part of the hammer is going to be like a draw stone, not like it is draw stone color, and then the bottom part is going to be dark, which is Abaddon black mixed with draw stone, and both are going to be watered down to a little bit of a transparent consistency. And we're also going to do maybe a slight little bit of wet blending, and what that is while the paint is still wet, you just take your paintbrush and you kind of just blending in the colors. But we'll see that as we go along, so I'm going to flip this over. It's already black. We'll do the bottom part first. And you can see the demarcation line from where I sprayed, so I'm going to kind of keep that like it is. And we're just going to continue on with this demarcation line like so. You can see the line here. And again, you want to do this while the paint is still wet. That's what wet blending is. Something that I learned recently. So while that is still wet, I'm going to take the lighter color now, which is just a straight draw stone. And we're going to paint it on top. Keep that line where it is for now. We don't want to cross over anything yet. Just like this here. Flip it back over again so we can see the top. Part in here. Now, since we have that all that done and the paint is still wet, now we are going to clean off our brush. Make sure it's damp though, and we're just going to kind of like brush this around so it's kind of blending that demarcation line, just like this. Pretty easy. You can see the subtle gradation from light to dark. If you really wanted to, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a little more of the darker mix and just add a little bit more in spots. Just want to make sure that that separation line is blended really well. That's pretty much it for that. We'll leave this dry. We'll be back, and then we are going to be painting the rope around the stone hammer. While the hammer is still dry in action, what we're going to do is the cork rocks that we glued onto the base. We're going to paint them, and we're just going to use the draw stone gray and just paint them. They're already in a gray color because of the black and white where we did the zenithal highlights. I'm just going to go around and just get that painted too. Just like that. And again, we're just going to wait till the stone hammer is dry because we don't want to paint the rope while the stone hammer is wet in case something bleeds. Because this here, again, It's very translucent, this paint here, and it's kind of watery, so if we get any other color in with this, what's going to happen is it may mix in and then bleed through, and we do not want that to happen. So we'll be back after that and we'll continue on. Now that the hammerhead is all dry, before we do the rope part, there's one more step I want to do, and it's using some pixelated white for dry brushing, and we're just going to dry brush over the top part of the hammerhead a bit, just to bring up some more of the highlights, because you can see it is light, but I just want it to be a little bit lighter. So I got my dry brush and just, you know, going over just to grab some details onto it on camera, as if the light source was just coming right down at it. There we go. All right, so now we are going to just keep rolling, and we're going to jump on painting the rope. And for the rope, the color that I'm choosing to do, I'm just got to find, I had it out. Maybe I should have cut it in the first place. Oh well, too late. But anyhow, we are going to paint the rope Ushapti Bone, but I can't seem to find, there it is. So Ushapti Bone is, we're going to color, it's going to give a little bit of a nice contrast there. Actually, I should probably shake this Ushapti Bone up a little bit first. Could have done that off camera and not waste everybody's time, but oh well. And I'm just doing this straight out of the pot. I'm not trying to water it down. Just like this. So I'll continue with this, and then when this is dry, we'll be back and it's time to do the shade. It's all dry. Now the next thing we're going to do is, like I said, the shade. And we're kind of following suit from Sarastro's painting. Why am I not having trouble? Why can't I say it? I can't even talk right now. Anyhow, that's what we're doing. And the mixture is 1 part Agrax Earth Shade to 1 part Athonian Camo Shade and 2 parts of water. He used Lamian Medium, but we are only using water. And we mix it up, and we're going to apply this to the entire miniature. I'm using a bigger brush just to speed things up a bit. So you can see it's kind of giving that greenish tinge slightly. And this is going on everything. The hammer, the feet, the loincloth, everything. Just like that. Not being shy, putting it all over. So what I'm going to do is, after this is all done and dry, we'll be back so we don't bore you with me just putting on shade. The wash is still drying, but it's at the point that if we want to continue around the skin, like the face, that we can, because you can see it's still pooling here and a little bit in the arm and everything. But you know, we could just say, hey, this is good, and start doing the basing onto this. But I want to add a little bit more detail into it. Even though we did design a highlight, you can see it's kind of the light, the white is showing through because where the paint is a little transparent. But we're just going to bump it up a little bit more. And the way we're going to bump this up is we're going to keep, we got the base tone still into our wet palette. And I'm just mixing in some Ushapti Bone in with it. It just add a little bit more extra highlight here and there. Now, or you can go all out like the tutorial that I keep mentioning, the Sarastro's painting tutorial on this, and go all out if you want, but I'm not going in that detail because I don't want to spend that much time onto the miniature. I want to get them on the table as quick as possible like I usually do. So we're just going to add a little bit of highlights using the base tone and the Ushapti Bone mixed in with it. All I'm doing is I'm just grabbing like the stuff that is protruding. Just like that, it's no big deal. Just like that. And you can see like the lines in the skin and everything, but some of them are scars, so you got to be careful which is scars and which is not scars, because it'd be cool to paint up some of the scars to make them a little bit more standing out than what they are. We're going to do that too as well, just to add a little bit more fun to it. But right now, again, like I said, I'm just adding a little bit, just some very slight highlight. It's not like too much, but it's enough. And again, we're going to do around his face and his eyes a bit, just to bring out his skull structure slightly. Just like so. And his nose, a little bit of his nasolabial folds or smile lines. Just like that. Throw a little bit on his chin. So you can see his face is kind of brightened up a little bit. Again, this is just very subtle. You don't have to do this. You can actually just leave it the way it was, and it's more than good for putting on the table. I think so, anyhow. But I just wanted to bring out a little bit more, like I said, just to make a couple of things pop. Just ever so slightly. I'm not getting more into the advanced part of painting because I really can't too much advanced part of painting because I'm not that skilled. But I do understand about highlight and contour. And I'm just trying to express a little bit more of the highlight onto him. And for the highlight, you can see like the curves into his skin that are popped out. And that's where the light would hit it. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm just bringing out where the highlight would be. Same with around his chest a bit. And just a little bit onto his shoulders and that. So again, his bicep, it's not technical, it's just where you think the light would be hitting him. You can see he has a scar there. So we don't want to go over the scars as much, because we're going to throw some scar color on there. Yeah. So again, I'm just bringing out some of his chest here. Ever so slightly. Not a whole lot of big changes, but you know, that is a little bit more than what we did. But this is just so he pops out a little bit more on the table. Even though he's not, it's not like he's not going to pop out on the table, because he's the biggest miniature in the core box. I don't know if you can get any bigger miniatures that is not in the core, like if there's expansions for this. But I only have the core for it, so that's all I'm doing. Is just, again, just adding some more. You can see there, and his stomach, he's got a big belly on him, so we're gonna have to just bring that up a little bit too as well. Just his abdominal muscles. Right here, you can see just as his belly kind of rounds. Like that. And I'm just going to take my finger and just gently dab it, because I find this helps soften your paint job. And you can see like his external obliques, which is the side part. He has some pretty good development there. So I'm just going to bring out that development just a little bit more. And on this side too as well. Pretty easy. Lemon squeezy. Not liking his stomach there a bit. Maybe I just want to put a little more highlight around it, just to help blend it in a bit more. Again, I'm not going for above tabletop. I'm keeping with tabletop quality, and that's it. Like I'm not trying to win any awards or anything with him. Just want him to look good on the camera when we play this game, because we are definitely going to be playing this game on camera. So you can see here with this hand too as well, like it's bringing out some of his natural highlights. It's already there from where we did the zenithal highlights. It's just adding to it a bit more. And I'm just going to keep continuing on playing with this, and I'll be back after I'm doing the highlights. But that's all it is. Just pick out the parts that are raised, like the back part here and everything, and just add that mixture to it. So I'll be back after I finish it. Now, all the highlighting of the skin is done. I'm happy where it is. We are going to actually do like the wounds onto him. But before we do that, we're going to take the base tone that we use, which is the what's that called? Yes, Reaper, Dark Reaper, and we mix a little bit of Ushabti bone into it to get a little bit of a color. I got my dry brush here already, and we're dipping it in. It's kind of like a lighter blue color than what that is, and we're cleaning it off as good as we can, and then we're just gently going over this just to dry brush his scales. Or not scales, but his skin. Rough patches on his skin. See, just like that. Just add a little bit more highlighting to it, so some contrast. Make it stand out a little bit more. Again, just a very little amount. You can see it is bright. Wipe that off there. There we go. It is brighter, but again, I'm not pushing hard enough that it's going in the little grooves as well as like all of the indents into the rough skin texture. Just kind of rubbing it over gently. So that's about it for that part of the highlight. I kind of like the way he's looking. Now, I'm not going to do anything to his loincloth because I really like the way it is. The only other thing that I could do to him is that I want to do with him is we're going to tackle the base here. We're going to use some basting paste instead of the sand that we usually use, and we'll go from there. Now, before we do the basting paste, what I like to do, I don't know if this is right, this is just my method. If I have a miniature that is dark, I put a lighter base onto him. If I have a miniature that is light, I put a darker base onto it. So he's kind of like in between light and dark. So either one will work, but I'm thinking, because you can see it's gray here now, and then, you know, you can go gray or brown. I'm thinking I'm going to do like the darker brown paste for this. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab that and I'll be back shortly, and we'll do the pasting of the base. To do the base, we're going to Citadel's Texture. It is sterling mud. That's the color that I like using for this. Well, this is the color that I picked actually for that. So, just gonna grab some here. And it's just like any other paste, you want to try to watch it. You don't get it on the feet or anything. You can, it would be just his feet are muddy then. And you really don't want to use a good brush for this because it can kind of get into your fibers of your brush no matter how much you clean. Well, I find it is like that anyhow. So you can see there, I'm not doing the rim of the base because we're going to paint that. So his hammer's kind of in the way there so you can see. So flip it around. Now you don't have to use a brush, you could use anything to apply this. I see some people use like spatulas. When I say spatula, like the little painting or sculpting spatulas, or even like plastic or rubber ones. Many things you can use for this, but I'm just using an old brush. I'm not going to throw the brush out when I'm done. It will clean up, but I'm not going to be using it to really paint super detail or anything. And there we go with the hiccups again. Oh, I'd like to know what it is that's giving me the hiccups every time I'm recording this, Painting with a Maniac. In either case, so this paste takes a little bit of time to dry. Now again, we could have just used the sand and PVA that we've used in the past, But we just change it up a bit instead of doing the same thing. Because there's many ways to do this. And that's about it. So with this now, literally clean off my brush. I'm going to take them off of the stand. Just to hold them for a minute. And I like to just take my finger afterwards, just like if we're doing the sand, and go around and just wipe it off so there's nothing there. And then since he's off the stand, I'll see if there's any spots that I missed anywhere that are jumping out. But no, he's pretty much covered. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to sit him back on the base like this. When this is dry, we'll be back and we're very close to finishing this entire miniature. While he's drying, while his base is drying, we're going to but we're going to concentrate on his scars. You know, we're just going to be using some Gene Steeler purple here, and we need a very fine brush for this. I'm not watering this down to get the transparency and everything. I'm just keeping it straight at the pot. And again, a little fine brush we need because we want to try to be as careful and cautious as possible. So here's one of his scars here. So just like that, you can see I'm just muting it down a bit with my finger. More scars, more scars. Let me see. Yeah, there's a couple of them on his belly right here. Something scratched him. Maybe he was just really itchy. Who knows? There's another one right here. And he has some on his head too that you can see. So you can make them fresh, you can make them old. Completely your call. So you can see them there on his wrist too as well. So let's get them. Now the degree of the concentration of color that you use on this, it's totally up to you. You can use a strong concentration, you can use a lighter concentration, you can go over it with some more wash. There's one on his leg. Just tone it down a bit. You can just mute it down with your finger. So there's no scars I can see here. They're just all wrinkles. Don't got any on his face. Just the one on his head right there. And the other one. Be nice to give him another scar though. I think on his face. Let's just give him a fake one. Or maybe that is a scar there. It's a wrinkle. I'm just going to do a scar. Just like so. Battle damage scar. Bah! Alright, so that is the first color for the scars. Now, the next color that we're going to use is going to be a red color. And we're going to use either corn red or Mephiston red. I have to find it. I'll be back after I find it. Alrighty. We're going to use corn red by Citadel too as well. You can see it's right there. And we're going right over the purple with it. But we'll have only a little tiny bit of product on our brush just to show some of the purple through the red. Like so. And you don't have to trace the entire scar with the red that you did with the purple. You can just do half or a little bit. Because the scars, they don't heal evenly. So, and we're just kind of giving it a little bit more. Let's touch on to the fake one that we did onto his face over the wrinkle. there. A little on his head, just a little bit though. And this one here. There we go. So yeah, now you can see he's got some good battle damage going on there. He's been in a lot of scraps. And as you can see, I'm not kind of covering over the whole thing. And we can mute that down even more with some wash. So we are going to mute it down just slightly with a little bit more wash. I'm just seeing if there's anywhere else that I possibly missed. I know there's one on his leg that I did. Right there. Oh look, there's a little scar on his forearm. I didn't put the purple on that, but that's more of a fresher one, I guess. Take some more of the corn red here, dull it down a bit. Let's give him a couple of scars on his knuckles. Or marks, like he's, you know, he just already bashed somebody's head in or something. It's kind of violent, but it's just what happens when you go up against the massive hill troll. Rah! Oh, look, he's got one here too as well. This is more of a fresh one, I guess, because I'm not going to put the purple and then the red. We'll just keep it with the corn red. Tone it down a bit. There. So yeah, he's definitely got some damage going on there. Like, that's crazy damage. So that looks like a scar, but it could be a wrinkle, a muscle or something. But I like to turn it to a scar because I like the way these scars are turning out. So we're just going to add to them. It's more of a fresher one there. Well, I got a little bit of red on me there. Oh, that works as some blood stain, maybe. Yeah, why? Why not? You can see there a little bit on his chin. Happy accidents. That's what that is all happy accidents. All right. So with the same wash that we have mixed up with the green and the Agrax Earthshade, we're just going to take a little bit of that now. And just in some spots, we're going to tone down the scars and that slightly by going over it with the wash. Just like that. Just to help tone them down. I like the color of that. You don't have to do it to them all either. You can just, you know, put it on where you want, or you can put them on everywhere. It's totally your decision. But you can see he's been definitely through the war. He's been fighting. He's got the scars to prove it. Again, I'm not even topping my brush up a bit. Just gonna keep it like that. So yeah, that is killer. Like, he's been in some fights for sure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to leave this sit. I'm going to leave the base dry, and then we're going to continue with finishing the base off, maybe adding some tufts of grass, and then that will be it for him. He will be done. Now that the base is done, dry, we're going to dry brush all of the texture paste and the cork, which is the rocks, with Longbeard Gray. Everybody knows who's been watching any of the Painting with the Maniacs series that this is one of my favorite go-to dry brush paints. So again, it's just gently going onto it. Like, I don't want it to be too highlighted, but enough. You can see there. Same with going on the rocks a bit here. It's kind of hard to see there because of the size of this monster. But it's okay. Well, I know he's the hill troll, but still, he's a monster. So yeah, just going over here, going around the rim, trying to avoid the feet as much as possible here. Just like that. All right. So now, since we have the dry brush done, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go over this with a shade. I know it's strange doing the dry brush before the shade, but that's what we're doing. And we are going to be going over with Agrax Earth Shade, watered down consistency of like a mixture of 1 Agrax Earth Shade to 2 water. I guess is the best consistency that I like anyhow. You could do whatever way you want. I'm still rolling here. And I'm shaking up my Agrax Earth Shade. So I'm just gonna grab some here. Put some in. Some water. All right. And I'll get my brush. Mix it up. And I'm not going to use the shade though onto my rocks. I'm going to keep them off of any shade. Or wash, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it shade, some people call it wash. I call it both. So again, just, you can see, trying to avoid the rocks there. Just like that. So that is done. I'm going to dry it. When we come back, paint the rim and probably put a couple of tufts of grass and we'll call him finished. Only 2 more steps left and he is going, well 3, but the third one I'm not recording because it's only sealing the miniature, which it's the same sealer, the Citadel varnish or the Testers clear coat that you can use too as well. But anyhow, what I'm going to do is we're going to paint the rim of the base and we are going to be using straight at the pot Lauren Forest. You can choose whatever color you want for this. You can paint it black, whatever you want, but he's a hill troll. Grass, that's why I'm going to paint him green. Now, if in the core box, like I said, I only have the core box. If I had in the core box plus an expansion, if they had one for another hill troll, then I would either do 1 or 2 things. Paint the other hill troll differently, and or the rim of the base I would paint it a different color so that it's easier to keep track of who you're killing and who's still got hit points and everything else. It just kind of cuts in on the guesswork. And it just makes it easier that way. In either case, there you go. There is the green of the rim of the base is painted green. So we're just going to sit him back like this to let him dry for that part. Now, the wash is dry on this hill troll. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some grass and then we're going to glue some tufts of grass and we'll call it done. I'll be back in a second after I find my grass. I got my grass, got some super glue. I even got my tweezers, my handy dandy tweezers. So you can see tufts of grass are there. And this grass is from Gamer's Grass. This is the multi-pack. But I'm using like the yellowish brown color because I really like that color and it's going to stand out really good on the base. So I'm just picking it up with my tweezers, flipping it over, using a little bit of super glue. Just like that. And I'm going to put it behind him right here. And it's going to place that down and push it in place. just like so. And we're going to take another tuft or two, and we're going to apply it in more of the front by the rocks, a smaller piece. Let's grab one smaller one right here. Some more super glue, glue this down. Just like so. See there. And let's just, I might just leave it at that. No, I think it deserves one more on that side. Just for fun, why not? Excuse me. So the last piece of tough grass here. Really, really nice tufts of grass from Gamer's Grass. I like the look of it. All the different varieties that they do offer, it's cool. So just adding that one there. And I think he is done, 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 done. So let's just take a quick peek at him again. Just so the base thing is dry enough. So there you go. That is the Hill Churl from Fantasy Flight Games, Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, which is a board game with miniatures and you use an app. I can't wait to play this. Looks like a lot of fun. So we are going to do this. My son and I kind of played a little bit of it off camera without the miniature being painted. I'm like, okay, I need to get these painted and shoot videos on it because it is fun. But we didn't play a lot of it. So you'll see that soon though. And continuing on with painting with the Maniac, you're going to see more episodes of painting more of the miniatures in the core box set, because what I'm going to attempt to do is record all painting for all the miniatures. But you know, like there's some that have, the Ruffian has 6 of the same pose, same miniatures. So I'm going to paint one out of it, and then one of the goblins and goblin archers and what have you. So just be aware of that. But there you go. That is a product shot right there of this Hill Churl. I really enjoyed painting him. Super detailed. He is a lot larger though than the other miniatures. Do I have another miniature? Okay, so let's grab Legolas. He's not painted yet, but you can see like the size difference in the two. Not a huge difference, but big enough, you know, that he's a brute and he's gonna do some damage if he comes out on the board to fight. And that's it. So I hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed this painting along with me for Painting with the Maniac. And join me next episode of Painting with the Maniac, where we paint some more miniatures. Who knows what miniature will be? It'll probably be not another Hill Churl, obviously, but more miniatures from the Lord of the Rings game. But we'll see. Who knows? But until next time, Board Game Maniacs, have fun, paint some miniatures. Hope you enjoyed this. If you learned something, great. If not, and just had it on for background noise, that's awesome. Jump over to our Patreon account, Board Game Maniacs, and you can become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs. And also on our YouTube, click on the subscribe button and bell notification if you didn't already. You can also check us out onto our Twitch account, which is, it's very dormant. We're not doing a lot of live streaming, but it's there when we do, and I will be posting onto our Facebook page as well as Instagram when we are going to be doing live streaming, and it may be specific to Twitch or specific to YouTube or what have you. So just keep that in mind. It's good to have the bell notification icon on, so then you will be more informed. And that's it. So have fun, paint some miniatures, and we'll see you in the next video. And remember, be a maniac. See ya. Bye. Bye. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to keep up to date with Board Game Maniacs, click on the like and subscribe button to be notified when more videos come available. If you want to become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs, go to patreon.com/BoardGameManiacs. Or you can go to streamlabs.com/BoardGameManiacs1. That's right, and you can donate to help keep the lights on, keep food in our bellies, and play more games. We'll purchase more games, more equipment to make Board Game Maniacs evolve and get bigger and larger. Because of you, the viewers, I thank you from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head for all of your support. And until next time, Board Game Maniacs, be a maniac.